Hello, my name is Justin Mandel, Product Design Manager for the Secure and Govern and AI Frameworks teams. Today I'll be walking you through an expert analysis heuristic evaluation for the security policy stage group. The job to be done that I was evaluating was to create a security policies for the organization's assets to reduce the likelihood of a legal and financial threat to the organization. And the purpose of this UX scorecard was the scenario as an infrastructure security engineer getting started with a new DevSecOps tool. You want to ensure that your company's software developing security rules are being adhered to by your engineering teams. Prior to code being merged into the product and shipped to customers, your task is to set up at least one security policy that will ensure code is being secured prior to merging with the default main branch. So I'm going to walk you through the screens that I accessed and my thoughts and observations. So the first screen that you see when you go to the Secure Policies page is your policies list or table that shows you how many policies you may or may not have. At the moment, I don't have any. So I have a clear call to action and as to what I can do. So easy enough to see. There weren't any pain points. I didn't recognize any real opportunities, no heuristic concerns. Overall, I give this a excellent grade. And again, that's because it's pretty clear what I'm supposed to do. So once I click the new policy button, I'm brought to a new screen where I have a couple of options that I can choose from. So again, this is not too bad. Nice descriptions. Pretty helpful in letting me understand that this one is basically for an MR, so prior to code being put into a product. And this one is for any other non-MR oriented sort of scanning that you might want. So based on my scenario, this is the one that I'm going to want. I also like that it tells you that there are states or steps, I should say, that I'm going to go through. So it makes it easier for me to know that if I get here and realize, oh, that's actually not what I want, I can very easily go back to the first step. So not too bad, decent descriptions to help me choose which I need. Pain points, each card has a lot of copy to read and try to parse and understand what they're ultimately getting at. So one opportunity that crossed my mind was to maybe put some keywords in there that can be highlighted or bolded, so as the user's scanning, it can sort of point out what they were. So I alluded to that earlier, something like this is for an MR stage, or when you're prior to merging code, something to that effect, or maybe this is for any other time than when you just want to run a scan. Something that helps the user parse what they're reading and understand it a little bit more easily. Heuristics that I recognized that were most important for this were visibility of system status and user control and freedom. So the visibility of system status, that's I understand what I'm looking at. I know that these are options that I have to choose from. The reason I gave it a B is because the copy could probably be massaged a little bit to be easier to understand and parse. The user control and freedom, what I was getting at there is what I pointed out above. So looking at this screen, it's obvious that I have control, that I'll be easy to back out and go back and forth. If I chose poorly, I can also see that I can hit cancel and I can stop doing this new policy creation. So that was nice. So overall, that one I rated it as excellent. The next step in the process is filling out the form. So this is a sort of a if this then that sort of scenario or way of looking at it. You would give it a name, you give it a description. For some reason, my screen cap got messed up. I just noticed that. The opportunity would be to name it something salient, something that would be you could reference easy, and then add a description later or as an option to help you understand what it is you're looking at later on in the future. And then you can start to define your rules and your actions. Okay, some of the things that I noticed, some thoughts, unsure what each of the settings do and what the menu options do, allow, or pertain to. So as you can see, there's no explanation, there's no descriptions as to what a scan type is, what a protected branch is, no exceptions, etc. Some of this, if I'm in the industry, I should have a decent idea of what they're referencing, but it would be nice if there was either help or maybe a info button, something to that effect that would help me understand it. So not enough explanation. Opportunity, add the ability to educate users as to what each option allows them to do, doc links, or maybe a drawer. So you can click on this info and it would pop up a side drawer that kind of walks you through setup. It's like a overview version of help documentation. Pipelines does this, so do something like that. Some of the other concerns that I had is this dialog. When you go to select it, it has a disabled item, and you can click it. And I was wondering why you could click it even though it's disabled. I'm also wondering, how do you enable it? I don't have any information on that. New attribute. What's an attribute? How do I learn about what this is? I selected it, but it still wasn't necessarily clear what it might get me. Another thing that I found was strange is the roles or the choose approver type. This menu works differently than any other menu where when you select something, it kind of pops off from the list. Whereas all the other menu options, they just show check marks. So that seemed strange as to why that was like that. And then when you're choosing your actions, if you've chosen the quantity to be higher than the number of people that are in the project, and also that are eligible to approve in the project. In my case, I only had one person in the project, and that was myself. So when I made this a 2, it errored out and said that there's not enough people. One thing I was hoping for in this is that maybe we can get a little more descriptive. Like, I kind of know what this is because I was part of the design process. I've seen issues where this is being discussed and how we can work through it and whatnot, but I think it could use a little bit more copy here to help better explain in general, what's happening. Let's see, logic error explanation could be more clear as to what it's trying to communicate. Yeah. Approver type menu works differently. Yep, got there. So some of the heuristics that I popped out were recognize, diagnose, recover from errors, error when not enough approvers. Yeah, explain that better. Real-time user interface. I thought that the YAML that's on the right side, this generates live. As you're making selections, it's updating the YAML, and I thought that was a really nice touch. It's real time, so I gave that a high grade of excellent. A tool the whole team can use. So this, I'm concerned that it's jargony. There's no explanations. There's no easy access to help me understand what each of the options are. Minimal setup required. There's not a lot of settings per se really going on, but they're also very jargony. So similar concerns with the whole team. And then documentation is easy to use. So there was no documentation linked or to reference. So that overall, it was absent. So I ended up giving it a pretty poor grade. Features, workflows have clear calls to action. This I ended up giving a solid grade because similar reasons. You got the stepper control at the top that tells you on step 2. You can easily go back to step 1. You could hit cancel. You can create. Very obvious what to do next. Tasks are easy to learn, or if highly complex, have setup support in the form of in-app guidance. So this was fairly absent. So in jargony, it's not obvious to novice users what I should be doing next. Because it can be done by people that are in the field and are familiar with GitLab, etc. I didn't give it an F, I gave it a D. I think you can muddle through and successfully complete your task. Once you've done that and you click on the create button, configure with a merge request, it brings you to the MR page. I forgot to screen cap this before I hit the merge button, but it did merge. One of my thoughts here is I'm unsure why I need an MR to complete this creation process. That's interesting. I get it, we're in Git, etc. But if I'm playing devil's advocate, I might not be a user that's familiar with the whole Git and MRs and whatnot. So I might be more akin to just a simple creation and save scenario where it's just like saving files or documents. Why is an MR needed? And then also the other question is, was my policy created? There's nothing here that really says anything, or even what's going on. So I think there's an opportunity here to add information that explains why the MR is necessary, and possibly something like a success alert that lets the user know that the policy was created, or move them to the policy page after the merge has been done, where they can see it was created successfully. Maybe add something in the description that says this is an MR. In order to create your policy, the policy will show up in your policy page. Here's a link, etc. Something to that effect. It can be an alert. It can be multiple ways that this is solved. Heuristics, visibility of system status. So I gave this a D. It wasn't clear that I was going to need to create it was clear that I was going to need to create an MR and the CTA label, but why was it needed? That's what I didn't quite understand. Also, was my policy actually created? So I gave it a D because you're in GitLab, so you're going to use Git, so you can kind of get it, you understand that, but is it really necessary to do that? A tool the whole team can use, so not everyone's familiar with Git, so same arguments I gave a couple seconds ago. So again, you can muddle through, so I didn't give it a terrible grade, it's a C. Then, after I hit the merge button, because there wasn't any success, I wanted to see if it really created. So I went to the secure policies page again and noticed that there was nothing in there. So I thought that was strange. I happen to know that in the background, we create a special security project just to house the policies, but I went there and it wasn't there either. What we actually do is we sort of cheat and put it inside of the regular projects policy so they can access it, but it wasn't showing up, and that was very confusing to me. A few minutes later, it did finally show up. So this is probably an issue with the merge propagating through the system. So it finally showed up, but it looks like it was in my app project when I know it's in the specialty project. So we're kind of hacking it and making it seem like it's the same thing. So where's my policy? Did I create it? Took a long time to show up. Pain points, no information about where my new policy is or when it will show up. No information about the security policy selection. So this is getting at this button, edit policy project. If I happen to know, but most people will look at this and be like, I don't understand, what is that even talking about? And when you click it, you get this dialog, which doesn't give you much more information about it. You can go to more information, but there is space. It's dialogue. You could probably explain what's going on here just a little bit more. Opportunities. Communicate that it takes X minutes for an MR to propagate through the system. Something to let the user know that it's coming. Be patient. With that dialogue, explain in more depth or a link to docs that explains what the SecBot project stuff is about and why. I guess technically that is there, the more information is the project. To store your security policies in, more information. Yeah, okay, so they got that. I missed that initially. Visibility of system status. No information where the policy is or why it's taking so long. I gave that an F. Maybe that wasn't fair because it's possible that people probably wouldn't go there by the time that it merged. But since there's no feedback on the MR page, maybe they would. So you know what, I take it back. It's an F. Real-time user interface. Again, there's nothing happening. There's nothing to communicate that something's happening. So again, poor grade. Visibility, sec policy, project stuff isn't clear, explained, confusing. Why do we need it? So the opportunity there to help users understand that these are workarounds due to the way that our product is architected, and that's why we had to use it. So that's the overall score. After that ends up being a 2.9, which is a D+. There's room for improvement. What I'm going to do next is I will create recommendation issues to capture these concerns, and I'll ping the designer, DRI, and PM. Thank you.